Hello everyone, I'm adding this intro to the video to let you know about some changes that VMS Software Incorporated, VSI, is making to its hobbyist program. In March 2024, VMS Software announced the upcoming end to its Alpha and Integrity hobbyist programs in 2025. VSI has indicated that the x86 version of the hobbyist program will continue, so hobbyists will still be able to use OpenVMS once accepted into the program. As of the current time, no new Alpha or Integrity hobbyist licenses will be issued, but existing licenses will be renewed to reach the planned ending dates, which are March 2025 for Alpha and December 2025 for Integrity. So the contents of this particular video can no longer be used to create a new hobbyist system, as this video demonstrates the Alpha version. Please enjoy the video from a historic or informational perspective. The remainder of the video is exactly the same as before, and I do plan to create a new video showing the creation of an x86 hobbyist system as soon as I can. Thanks for watching, and now here is the original video. In this video, I will demonstrate creating an OpenVMS hobbyist system. OpenVMS is now in the hands of a company created specifically to develop the operating system, VMS Software Incorporated. VMS Software is continuing the long-established hobbyist program, allowing individuals to run OpenVMS at no cost and participate in the community, which would exclude virtually everyone if they had to pay full price. To run OpenVMS, I will install and use the basic version of the AlphaVM emulator. This particular emulator has an annual cost, but that cost is similar to the heat and electricity cost for real hardware. I've never used AlphaVM before, so you'll see me working through the process of installation and configuration as a first-time user myself. The hobbyist kits for OpenVMS can be obtained by joining the community hosted at VMS Software's website. The software licenses must be renewed every year, but they're free of cost. VMS Software does expect that you'll be active in the community, such as participating in the online forums, perhaps writing freeware, and so on. Now it's time to download and install the Alpha Computer emulator. You'll need to create an account at muvm.com in order to download it and obtain your passwords. So let's get started. I'm now going to download AlphaVM Basic. First, I'll just try it from the browser and see what happens. Looks like I'll have to log into the account that I created via the register page previously. So now I'm going to log into it. Okay, I am using a 64-bit version of Windows, so I'll select that download link. I'll save it to a particular location. And I'll go to that folder and I will execute it. Okay, it looks like a pretty standard software license. Oh, it has an included version of PuTTY, so that you don't have to download that separately. That's nice. I'll accept the agreement. Yeah, that's fine. We'll put it there. I may be using Ethernet on this installation, so I'll include it. And I'll take all the defaults. I'll add a shortcut, sure, yeah. Okay, that looks like all. And notice that we're going to start this at boot time. And that looks like it for download and installation. The default here is to start it up upon finishing the installation, so we'll go ahead and start it up. That looks okay. What do we have for CPU? Memory size 128. I assume that is megabytes, and that'll be fine to start with. An emulated serial console port, which is associated with PuTTY, so that'll be fine. Let's see about the logging. Okay, I'll now change the licensing page here, these two fields, my login and my password, that I obtained from the emulator's vendor. Okay, we're done with the installation, and that'll be it for this clip. We need to make the VM capable of installing the OpenVMS Hobbyist kits, so we will attach two virtual disk drives to it, one for the operating system and one for the installation software. In the first case, we'll create an empty container file on the PC's hard disk, and for the other case, we'll attach an existing disk image file from the operating system vendor that contains the installation kits. In this clip, I'm going to create a container file on my Windows PC that will host the operating system disk of the virtual alpha. So we start the emulator, or the virtual machine. We want to add a disk to the configuration. And then when we come over here to select the disk, you can see that the image file field is blank, and this expects a disk image file or container file to already be created. So that is a step we will perform now. Okay, I'll leave that there for a second, and I'll click Tools, Make Disk Image. I initially assumed that that meant to make an image from an existing attached disk, but that's not exactly right. It creates a new container file. So first I'm going to pick the disk size. Let's see, RZ29. See, we'll pick something a little bigger than that. We'll create a 10 gigabyte disk. And now we're going to assign it to an image file. I'll call it disk 0 alpha sys for now. And then sparse. I assume that means that the empty space on the disk, virtual disk, won't be overwritten on my physical hard drive on the PC. I'd rather have it cleared, so I'd like to start with a clean disk and leave it at false and click Create. Now it's created. so I will close the window. And now I should be able to take the disk unit that I added to the virtual machine and assign the disk image we just created to the unit. And that looks right. Alright, so I believe I have successfully created a container file and attached it to my system. But a caveat, we haven't saved the system configuration yet. So if we stop the virtual machine and then start it again, the default system is back to not having a disk. So after attaching the disk, we need to save the configuration. So I'll add the disk back again, assign it to the image file again, and now I will save the configuration, and I'll call it first alpha config. I'll save it. Now let me start it again and see what happens. Okay, so it came back. So apparently it loaded my configuration automatically, and everything appears good. Now at this stage, I'm ready to start trying to load the OpenVMS operating system on this emulated alpha, and I'll do that in the next clip. Now we use the OpenVMS Hobbyist ISO to install OpenVMS onto our blank container file. I think I have my virtual machine ready to accept the Hobbyist version of OpenVMS, which I obtained from VMS Software, VSI. I have those zip files that I received from VSI right here, so I would like to now prepare these Hobbyist kits for loading onto the new emulated alpha. I'll start by unzipping this alpha 0842L1.zip. And what we're left with in the resulting folder is an ISO image, which I am assuming can be attached directly to the alpha emulator as a bootable device. So I will attempt that now. I'll start up the Alpha VM emulator. I already have this disk 0 unit attached, which is the container file that I'm going to use as the operating system disk. So I'm going to add another disk to attach the ISO file that I just unzipped. So let me do that. And we'll attach this one to the ISO. So there's an ISO file. Now it wasn't one of the types in the file type filter for disk image, so that's a point that worries me just a little bit, but we'll try it. Now for the first time, I'm going to attempt to start the emulator. Now on my other screen here, I have the Windows Task Manager ready to go. Let me show you that first so you can see what my CPU utilization looks like with just the background tasks going on that I have now. The base processor speed on this machine is 3.6 gigahertz, and this is what the display looks like on such a machine. Okay, let me get that out of the way, and I assume this button starts the emulator. So I'm going to start it up and see what happens. No SCSI buses. Load a SCSI controller. Okay, that's something that I didn't do. All right. I don't know, maybe that's all I need to do. Let me try it again. Okay, so I need to set the SCSI addresses for disk 1 and disk 0. Okay, this is disk 0, so SCSI bus 0, logical unit number, target ID. I don't know whether I have to, yeah. Okay, so that's disk 1 now. So I assume now that is what I needed to do. So let me try it. License error. Well, that's odd since I already, let's see here. Huh. Okay, it looks like everything reverted to defaults. So let me fill in my license info again. And now it's connected to the license server. All right, let me come back to the system. There's my stuff. Okay. Now let me start it up. License error. All right, I have the configuration saved. I'm going to start the emulator over and see what happens. All right, I've restarted. I have my disk 0. I have disk 1. Let me go check the licensing tab. Connected successfully. Expiration date 11/28. Okay, that looks good. So now we'll try it again. All right, it just looks like I had to restart. Here's the PuTTY terminal emulator, which is in raw mode, not telnet mode. And since this is emulating an alpha, I'm expecting to see the SRM console. And that is what it looks like when I press return. Show device D, there I have my DKA0, which will be my operating system disk, and then DKA101, which will be the OpenVMS Hobbyist ISO. So I'm going to attempt to boot from DKA101, which should be the Hobbyist distribution. So let's see what happens. Okay, so far so good. We'll enter 30 oct 2021. 1350 is my current time. Right. I will install OpenVMS. I will initialize the new disk DKA0 instead of preserve. Let's make sure it recognizes that a DKA0 is present. So DKA0 will be the target of this installation. AlphaSys is a fine volume label. I'll keep it. I would like to install it as ODS2. And that is okay, so I will say yes. This will not be a member of the VMS cluster, at least not at this time. It will not be a Galaxy system. And I am going to call it Woogie. I will initialize it with DECnet, yes. And I will, in fact, call this node 1.1. Time zone. Well, I don't see, hold on now. Let me search. Okay, let's see. 2 US Central. That's correct. Yes, that's correct. Yes. Yes, we are at -5. Yes. Yes, I would like to register my product authorization keys at this time. Issuer is VSI. Authorization number. Hopefully I can paste. Yes, good, okay. Product name. Producer is VSI. The number of units was 150. Version was blank. Product release date was blank. Key termination date. Availability was A. Activity. Didn't have any. Options is alpha in parentheses. Okay, I'll do it without the parentheses. Product token, hardware ID, checksum. And we'll see if that took. All right. Now I'll register the other pack, layered products. Once again, VSI, authorization, product name, and then this is the alpha layered products. Producer, VSI, number of units, 1050. Version was nothing. Product release date was nothing. Key termination date. Availability was H as in hotel. Activity, nothing. Key options, alpha. Product token, nothing. Hardware ID, nothing. And checksum. Sure. And it's registered. Press return. 99 to exit the licensing. Deck Windows motif. I don't think I will install Deck Windows on this emulator. DeckNet Phase 4, I'll go ahead and do that. And then TCP/IP services, I will install that. Do I want Deck Windows motif? No. DeckNet Plus? No. Although, yeah, maybe I'll install Phase 5 instead of Phase 4. Yes, I'll install that. Yes. All right, what did that say? The system booted from an alpha distribution. Right. 2L1. No, I want to see the options. Yes. And yes. Yes, please. No. Oh yeah, I'll get that. RMS journaling, yes. System programming support, yes. Yes. Management station. Yeah, why not? I'll take it. Utilities, yes. Bliss, yeah, why not? Why not? Sure. UETP, okay. Deck Windows Server. I don't know, maybe I'll run an X client sometime. Why not? Yes. Yes. I should have just said yes to everything. DeckNet Plus, yes. Deck DNS, no. DeckNet Phase 4, no. I was going to use Phase 5 on this thing. Now it's installing. Let me bring the task manager over so you can see what's happening. So you can see it's working on my hard disk, and that's how much CPU it's taking. And it is in fact spreading the workload around to the various cores instead of having it on one core. That'll help with the heat distribution. Oh wow, isn't that something? Yes. Wow. Well, it looks like I'm going to do a little research and start over. I'll see you in the next clip. Since this was my first time installing this version of OpenVMS, I wasn't expecting any errors. The error messages indicate, and this is my own speculation, that some component of VMS was being installed before the system help library and command tables existed. So the error presumably would not have happened if we were upgrading from a previous version of VMS, but the operations were not in the correct order for installing to a blank disk. Now, I don't know what component of VMS was affected, but if I find something that doesn't work in the future, I think it's likely that a deinstall reinstall of just that component would fix everything. The component's help text presumably is missing from the system help library, and its command line entries are not in the CLI tables. There's possibility that there's a CLD file, which is command line definition, somewhere on the disk that can be processed via a set command, which is a DCL command, which would make the component execute without reinstalling. In any event, I will ignore the errors in this second attempt and continue with the OpenVMS installation. Okay, in this second attempt, I started the installation over and I ignored the two errors. It makes me a little bit nervous, but it seems to be going on, and we'll see if we end up with a bootable system disk. I did check the forums in the meantime at VSI. Somebody made a comment that this particular version of OpenVMS, 8.4-2L1, I think it was, is an update-only kit and expects you to have a previous version of VMS installed. And that tracks with the type of error messages that we saw. That makes sense. It's not necessarily for clean installations, but the kit itself seems to indicate that it is, or at least it's being offered as such. So we're just going to let it continue and see if everything works. Okay, so let's just see what all this said. 80, 90, 100%. Stuff has been installed. VMS 8.4-2L1 operating system. Kerberos SSL. Warning, one or more things failed. Yes, we know that since we ignored the 2 errors. Installation is now complete. Okay, press return to continue. Let's see, we're going to shut down the system and then I will attempt to boot from the new system disk. Okay, that looks like a successful shutdown of the system. And that is it for the clips of installing OpenVMS. In the next clip, I will boot from the freshly created system disk and run the OpenVMS one-time setup procedure. OpenVMS is installed on the emulated alpha, and now it's time to boot it for the first time. In this clip, I am going to boot my emulated alpha from the system disk that we just set up with the VMS install procedures. So let me start it up. Okay, now remember that disk 1 is the ISO for the installation kits for OpenVMS. At this time, I could and probably should disconnect it from the system. I won't bother to do so, but that's what I would normally do. And disk 0 is the disk to which I installed OpenVMS. So I will attempt now to boot from that disk. So let me start the terminal session and connect it to the just launched VM. There's my 3-arrow prompt, which is characteristic of the SRM console. Show device starting with D. And there is my SCSI unit DKA0, which should be my brand new, never before booted system disk. So let's boot from that device. Looks okay so far, and that's characteristic of the first boot of OpenVMS. It needs to know what time it is, so it can set the hardware time of year clock and record the base date in a system image. That's how time works on VMS. So today is 31 October 2021. Happy Halloween. And my local time is 10:47 a.m. Looks like AutoGen is exploring the characteristics of the system and setting performance parameters and the sizes of things based on what it finds. Now it's rebooting itself, and so this next boot should be the first true boot of the configured system. Okay, so far so good. Looks like a normal OpenVMS boot. And that looks like the normal end of the startup procedure for OpenVMS, so we should be able to log in right now to the system account we created in the last clip. System, super secret password. Okay, and it looks like we're in, so good. Show default, directory, and there is the stuff I expected to find. So very good. It looks like we have successfully installed and started OpenVMS on the Alpha VM basic version. Now the tasks I have left from my personal standpoint here are to create the user accounts the way I want them. I'll install a TCP/IP package, which I did not do yesterday. So that concludes the tutorial on downloading, installing Alpha VM Basic, and getting the hobbyist version of OpenVMS installed onto it. If you're doing the same thing, your next step, this system is not licensed yet. You may have chosen to install your hobbyist license during the OpenVMS installation, which I didn't do on the second attempt. If you would like to do that now and you have your hobbyist license packs from VMS software, you can enter @sys$update:\VMS license. And then follow the prompts to register your licenses, of which there are two, OpenVMS itself and then the layered products, which is things like language, compilers, tools, etc. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the demo. OpenVMS is the first operating system that I used professionally, and it was one of the very influential ones in the industry. Many of its design principles were incorporated into Microsoft Windows due to a large number of the OpenVMS engineers being involved in the design of Windows NT. And if you're interested in joining the OpenVMS community, I hope this video will be helpful to you. Thanks again for watching.